This time, we're taking a bite-sized look into one of the most realistic depictions of space travel ever put on screen in Ad Astra. And along the way, we ask, just how can Brad Pitt stay so calm? Why are primates part of experiments in space? And how could this level of space travel actually be possible? Let's dig in on Force-Fed Sci-Fi. Hello guys, welcome back to another awesome episode on Force-Fed Sci-Fi. We're doing, like I said, a bite-sized one of Ad Astra, and along the way, my co-host is...
I am Chris Rupp.
Yes, and I am this lovely voice called Spaceman Sean Michael Culp. So, Ad Astra.
Ad Astra.
Dude, we've been excited about this, I think it's for a while.
Yeah, a quiet excitement, I would call it, because we didn't really ramp up the excitement and intensity we had towards this movie until we actually sat down in the theater the other night. And once the movie was over, we just both looked at each other and that was incredible.
I know, so speechless.
Yeah,
I've never had that moment before where I'm just taking it in and still pondering it days after. It really hit me. You know it's a good film if you think about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so let's dive into this, man.
Yeah.
Who's in this? What's it about? Do you have your synopsis?
I do. Before we get into today's episode too deep, being that this is a newer release film, we are providing a spoiler alert for today's episode. So if you haven't had the chance to go see Ad Astra, please pause here and go check out the movie. And this probably isn't the best episode for you to start with, so go back and enjoy one of our earlier episodes as we dive into Ad Astra today.
And please, God, don't watch Downton Abbey. Just kidding, if you like that.
All right, so Ad Astra is about an astronaut by the name of Clifford McBride, who 30 years ago left Earth to serve on the Lima Project, which was a mission to search for extraterrestrial life outside of our solar system. Problem is, he and the crew were never heard from again. So about, say, 20 years ago, they just up and vanished. No transmissions after that. Then, when Earth begins to be bombarded by power surges from space, the United States Space Command believes it is coming from the Lima Project and enlists the help of McBride's son, Roy, to go after his father and save the Earth.
Ooh. Epic, right?
Epic. So great plot.
Yes.
Love it.
And it's super simple too. I mean, once you start getting into it, it's not you're not bogged down, I think, by the little minute details.
No, it's very much man receives mission, man is going to go after his father.
Conflicts come across along the way.
Yes.
And it helps him grow and change as a character by the time he returns home.
Yes.
It's pretty standard, which I know as a viewer, I enjoy that when watching a film. I don't like getting bogged down by wait, what's happening? How do I know this person? And what's this tech?
Yeah, and I hate doing this. I hate comparing films to other films, but this feels like a slimmed down version of Interstellar.
Visually speaking, they recycled, it almost feels like, elements from that film. The long takes, the space travel takes. There's a lot of, I guess you could say, space porn, like in Star Trek where there's ship porn where they just spend 5 minutes looking at the ship flying by. But there's a lot of that in this where the visuals are just they're spectacles, man. It's brilliant.
Yeah, this is one of the most impressive color palettes I've seen in any film. This is up there with Her for me in terms of color palettes.
Absolutely. And I know I've griped a lot about visuals in films. I was I was sad. I'm had to eat my words after watching this. I'm wow, you usually talk smack about visuals, but the visuals were captivating.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those films where it's just, they use the effects in just such a variety where it just takes you and tells a story.
Well, that's all comes from the vision of the director and writer of the film, James Gray, who I definitely felt like he put a lot of care and attention into this film. This felt like a pet project for him. This is something he always wanted to put on screen.
Yes, he said, I think in 2016, he said he wanted the feature to be the most realistic depiction of space travel that's ever been put in a movie.
Yeah, this is almost like Apocalypse Now meets Interstellar.
Yes,
it is very much a Heart of Darkness type feel to it, where he's going after this. I mean, we don't know that his dad's gone crazy yet.
Yeah, you're figuring it out along the way.
Exactly. And much of the marketing has been centered around Brad Pitt, who is the star of the film. I mean, he's had a great year in 2019. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and now this film. I think it's safe to put Brad Pitt in legendary status after this year. And the whole cast is full of legendary actors. We've got Tommy Lee Jones, who we've talked about on the show previously, and Donald Sutherland. Both guys, legendary actors. And then rounding out the cast with female stars, we have Ruth Negga, who was previously in World War Z. She earned an Oscar nomination for the film Loving.
Oh, okay.
She was in Warcraft, and she's prominently well known for TV's Preacher, which I think just ended its run not too long ago. So that was a great show. And then also Liv Tyler's in this movie.
I know. Liv Tyler in another space adventure.
Yeah.
I know. While watching this, I was thinking of, what was that film?
Armageddon.
Armageddon. Yes. I'm like, she's just like an older version of this.
So this is a really good cast.
It is. It really is. And you could feel it. Like, the acting is just spectacular in this film.
Yeah. Brad Pitt joined the project back in April 2017. So he was on board almost right from the start. And he actually serves as one of the film's producers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think his company is Rat Pack Entertainment.
What a name.
Yeah.
Nice.
Those initially made on a budget of $80 million, but then some initial test screenings came back negative.
Yeah.
And they had to reshoot part of the film, and that caused the budget to balloon to well over $100 million.
I wonder what those reshoots were.
Well, I do as well. I mean, it's very rare where you get a film that just blows everybody away in initial test screenings. I think Back to the Future is one of those few exceptions, but pretty much every film has to go through reshoots of some type.
Yeah, especially it feels more nowadays.
That's definitely more commonplace now.
Yeah. I wonder if the reshoots were the ending, because we were, and we could talk about this later, I guess, in the show about what we felt how the film was going to end as opposed to what did happen. Like, I know our producer felt it would be more a science-y ending where it just kind of things just go haywire. But the film is pretty tame. It's very straightforward. It doesn't take you on like a weird conglomerate of science. Like how some films just get shook up by like alien encounters at the end or everything goes haywire. It doesn't. It has a very realistic appeal the whole way through.
The film, the ending definitely takes on this sort of humanities philosophical approach to with the search for extraterrestrial life and also dealing with the failure of objectives and learning to grow from that. So it takes on this hard stance of it's okay to fail.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And this is a really good film where the themes are so prevalent. Like, you can actually see and take home something from it.
Exactly.
You learn.
I mean, and there's something for everybody to take home. One of the important aspects of the film is the relationship between Roy and Clifford.
Yes. Father-son, baby.
That is the emotional crux of the film. Because while Roy is off Earth, he's also dealing with the fact that Liv Tyler, his wife, has left him. He's estranged from his wife.
Yeah.
And it all comes back to the fact that Clifford left him when he was just a young man. He's been gone for 30 years. He's had to close off pretty important parts of his life.
Totally.
He doesn't allow himself to feel anything. He's calm under pressure, almost eerily so.
Yeah, his pulse never goes over 80 beats a minute. Even when he was falling, it never rose over 80, which is nuts because he's working on that space antenna. I think it was in the trailer, like him just falling. And he was calm and collected the whole time. It's just nuts, right?
Yeah.
It's like falling from the series. Well, whatever the tallest building is, like in Dubai, and just being chill the whole way down.
That is the Burj Khalifa.
Right, yes.
The tallest building in the world.
Falling from the Burj Khalifa and just being like, oh, whatever, deploy this parachute now. Oh, debris hitting my parachute, putting holes? No worries, I'll just move out of the way.
Granted, that is a great quality to have in somebody who's in a dangerous profession like this, but to the level like this is, beats per minute never gets above 50 during his evals.
Yeah.
That's scary.
It's like Lance Armstrong type stuff.
Although producer Jeremy was telling us off air that if you are physically fit enough, like your resting heartbeat could be between anywhere from like 50 to 60. And when you're sleeping, it could be around 40. So that is possible that Brad Pitt is just so physically fit that, this is just no big thing to him.
I would say the mental factor does come into play too, being able to be calm under pressure like that as well. Because I've seen guys like that in the military where they're just like so chill, dealing with just people yelling at them and just crap going everywhere. And no, never phases them. We're driving on with the mission, baby. It's like, wow,
Well,
how can I get some of that?
Well, he has to be, because he's dealing with life or death circumstances all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about this on the show when space travel does come up.
Mm-hmm.
It's so dangerous.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, space is a hostile environment.
Do you think in this film, the way it was portrayed, space travel kind of seemed like flying an airplane in modern times? Like
Very
going
much
from,
so.
Yeah, Earth to the moon.
Well, even, I don't know if you picked up on this, but the rocket that takes Roy from the Earth to the moon is a Virgin Atlantic rocket.
Oh, I didn't see it. Oh, my gosh. That's amazing.
And it's nice to know that some things aren't going to change in the future.
Yeah.
Because Brad Pitt asked for a pillow and a blanket. It's going to cost him $125.
They were so, because we looked at each other like $125.
Yeah, I looked at you. It's like, oh, they can burn in hell for that.
That better be the most comfy pillow and blanket ever.
And then they offer him a hot towel. And like, I wonder how much that's going to cost.
$50. And then when he gets to the space station, I guess the spaceport on the moon, there's Subway.
There's
And
Subway.
like a bunch of different.
Did you see there was an Applebee's there?
Yeah. Applebee's is still in the future.
Applebee's is gone.
Right?
Yeah.
So-
At least I haven't seen any where we live.
Well, with that, then, when do you think this film took place? Because apparently there's Applebee's. It made a comeback. Because at the beginning crawl, it just said in the near future. There was no year put down that I could see. Unless it was really quick, like on the computer screen. I didn't notice any.
I think it's safe to assume that this film takes place at least 100 years in the future,
Yeah.
if not more. I think if I had to pinpoint an exact guess, I would say 200 years in the future.
Yeah.
Because that space antenna we see at the beginning of the film, that connects from the Earth to the top of the atmosphere, whatever that layer is called.
And these guys are astronauts with helmets. They have parachutes on. Like, they're working on it.
Yeah. They have rockets that can go from the Earth to the moon in less than 3 days.
That's nuts.
Which is incredible.
It is incredible.
And then going from the moon to Mars takes maybe like a week, apparently. Then from Mars to Neptune is like 2.5 months.
I know. The travel's getting more efficient.
Well, there also
Traversing.
isn't an International Space Station anymore. It's the International Space Antenna.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
Yeah, so the space station is gone, and the antenna seems to be this conglomerate of corporations that have like come together to build this. Because it doesn't seem like there's a NASA anymore. It seems like it's been replaced by the United States Space Command, which in the trailers, I don't know if you saw, but they had like those pure black military uniforms, and I was like, what is that? Like, it's not a NASA uniform.
Right.
And then it turns out it's like, oh, it's the uniform for Space Command.
Space Force.
I mean, to be honest, it looks like they're almost like spooks from the CIA.
Spooks from the CIA.
Like if they gave official CIA uniforms, that's what they would look like. Is just pure black with insignias on them.
Oh, I thought Space Force, baby. I'm like, it made me want to join the Space Force and be an astronaut when I finish this. Do you think because the corporations came together to build this antenna that this world is utopia-esque more so than like a dystopian future? Because we didn't see anything like climate change, global warming. Because most films set in the future, it's pretty like
bleak,
dark, man.
Yeah, I don't think it's a dystopia, and I don't think it's a utopia either. But I think Earth is just okay. Like there isn't any mention of famine, disease, war, poverty, nothing like that. And it seems like Earth is, I don't want to say in cruise control, but it just seems like we as a population have both hands on the steering wheel. Yeah, and we're okay knowing where we're going. Yeah.
We've solved some problems because the only issues that show up is the pulses that come and start just blowing up the antenna and causing chaos to the people there.
Yeah, those surges are really what kind of kickstart Earth going in a tailspin. Yeah. Because the death toll is rising from that first surge. I think the only really screen grab we get is there were maybe 43,000 people who died during that first surge. That's a lot.
That is a lot of people.
I mean, we don't get any kind of indication of what the population is like at this time, but that's a lot of people.
They didn't seem too happy because on the moon there were space pirates.
Yeah,
with that brilliant scene where they're traversing with the rover to get to the ship that's going to take them to Mars. And you just see, it's beautiful. They're crossing the plane with like 3 rovers. Then all of a sudden, it's a wide pan shot, and you see these other rovers coming. They're like, uh-oh.
First
Space
thing
pirates?
I did when I saw that, I like nudged you. Like, space pirates. We're getting space pirates.
I couldn't believe it. They're just, and they have the blasters, pew, 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 just shooting at them. Oh my God. And we get our red shirt in that scene too.
Yeah, Lieutenant Levant.
Yeah.
Played by actor Sean Blakemore, who I looked up some of his credits on IMDb. He's been a pretty solidly working actor for the better part of a decade.
Getting nice bit parts.
Some starring roles on some television shows.
Yeah.
So he's been a solid working actor for a while, and I got mad respect for that.
Me too. It sucks he got a blaster right in the face. Because that scene was just, because the only sound was the score, and then you hear the blasters. And Jeremy was saying that in space, the only thing that they missed with that scene was the sound of the blasters. It would have been cool if it was just like heavy breathing and
total
talking.
silence.
That would be amazing. But that scene was still captivating,
Well,
nonetheless.
Yeah. Space is a vacuum. There is no sound in space.
Yes.
So that's definitely one aspect of the film that's correct throughout.
Mm-hmm.
There's no sound.
No sound except that. And it was just, the shot to the face.
And I do have a gripe about that scene, though. Like, in the future, with future weapons, you mean to tell me that the only thing they have for defense is those itty-bitty pistol blasters?
That's all.
They don't have heavier weapons than that. I mean, it's not until everyone else is dead that the station launches, I guess, missiles to the other space pirates and blows them up.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they don't have any other heavy weapons that they can use.
No chem weapon from what was that, Elysium, taking people out.
Yeah, no railgun or anything.
Nothing. Yeah, but at least we get cool little blasters. How'd you like the scene of them going over the edge into the moon crater? And
that was awesome.
Around.
I thought for sure, like, oh crap, they're all gonna die.
Yeah, but it was perfect because gravity. They just landed, boop, boop, nice and soft, and then just drove on like nothing happened. And you said something about the moon because no one can lay claim to the moon. That's probably why they're space pirates.
Well, there's an international treaty in place that says no nation on Earth can claim anything that isn't on the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why when astronauts landed on the moon in 1969, it's like, yes, you landed on the moon, you can't claim it for America, though. That's not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So when they land on the moon, they come on the intercom and say, please be aware the moon is borderless.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a war zone. That is pretty much what they say. Like, it's, they're space pirates. It's pretty much the Wild West on the moon.
It's nuts. I would love to see that movie of like them colonizing on the moon, like the different battles between the people. What else? We have the death of, or did he die? Donald Sutherland's character?
I'm pretty sure he died because he was old. He had an irregular heartbeat. It's safe to assume he died.
I know. I was like, wow, this guy, he's pretty old to be traveling on this mission.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't die like mid-flight to the moon.
Well, they have the tech then. I guess, how accurate do you think this film was with space and tech?
Overall, I have to say, looks pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Granted, we don't know what space travel is going to look like in the future, but I think it's a safe bet to assume that this is what it could potentially look like.
Yeah. It seemed like they took elements from modern space travel and applied it to the future. Like the rockets are still long and you land, like I think we recently landed a rocket, like right side up, correct? Like how they landed on Mars.
Mm-hmm.
So they took the elements of travel so far that we have, which I thought was pretty cool. It made it feel realistic within our grasp, you know?
There wasn't too much other tech that I could say with any certainty that it looks accurate.
No, you didn't think the little rover on Mars or whatever that thing was? It reminded me of like an airport rover that carries
Well, it
the
all looked
luggage.
fine. It's just I can't say with any certainty that that's what tech is going to look like 200 years in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Because this isn't a movie like Her where we saw technology be advanced to the point where we're seeing it now.
Mm-hmm.
This technology in Ad Astra is so advanced that I can't definitively say whether or not we're going to see something like this 200 years in the future because it looks that advanced.
It did? Oh, man. See, it seemed like, I feel it.
Well, even when
I was convinced.
Even when Brad Pitt was in the comfort rooms on Mars,
Yeah.
there wasn't anything like we didn't see any light from a projector.
No. It was like big screens almost or something. It was like the walls turned into like waves, and that kind of creeped me out though.
Well, there's also I think they call it the laser transmission that's able to just go quickly from Mars to Neptune and communicate with the Lima Project.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's going to exist 200 years in the future, that's incredible that we can do that.
I know.
Because I think probes that NASA has sent out in space, they take years to get back to Earth. Mm-hmm. I forget what probe it is, and it's going to bug the crap out of me that there was a probe that NASA sent that just left our solar system. Ooh. It's still transmitting, but it's going to take years for that data to get back to NASA. Yeah, it's the Voyager. The Voyager probe that just left our solar system. So it's incredible to think that something we sent up like in the 70s and 80s is still there and is still sending data to us. I mean, and who knows what it could send us in the future.
I know. It's so mind-blowing, man. Maybe it'll turn into Star Trek and become Voyager.
Jeez.
Dude, it's nuts, man.
It's fixed technology. It's not going to evolve into the Voyager spacecraft.
Who would have thought that the first Star Trek film was a depiction of the reality that might take place?
Sure.
Oh, man.
I mean, technology aside, though, this is a
character study.
This is a fantastic character study. Brad Pitt is utterly fantastic in this film. Mm-hmm. And he's dealing with so much as the son of the great Clifford McBride.
And Clifford, he like went to Mars, he went to the moon, he went to Jupiter,
Saturn.
He's traversed the entire like outer space. So he's got so much clout to him. Everyone that sees Roy throughout the film's like, dude, I respect your dad so much. He inspired me to be where I'm at.
But he doesn't bother to correct anybody by saying, like, you didn't know him like I did.
Yeah.
Because he saw the uncaring, cruel side of his father. Mm-hmm. Everybody else saw the brilliant scientist and man that went searching for extraterrestrial life.
Yeah. I think, though, that was the brilliant humanistic depiction of these films, because we've all probably experienced that in real life, where you know someone on more of a personal level and like all your friends are like, wow, that person is amazing. And you're like, well, I don't know about that. Kind of as a coke habit, you know, like where they have some uncanny qualities where you're just like, oh no, well, I guess.
I listened to a podcast with Freddie Prinze Jr. And if you're unfamiliar with who that is, he's the son of the late great comedian Freddie Prinze, who passed away when young Freddie Prinze was like 6 months old. So he never really got a chance to know his dad. Mm-hmm. But when he makes this great point of when you're a junior, you're basically a statue to honor that which came before you. Mm-hmm. And Roy is very much that.
He's living in the shadow of his dad.
Exactly.
It sucks.
Everybody compares him to his father.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure Michael Jordan's kids have to deal with that all the time.
Well, yeah,
you know?
Walter Payton's son has to deal with that.
It's horrible. It's like a gift and a crux at the same token, because the world gets someone so inventive and awe-inspiring, but then the ramifications for their family that has to follow.
Yeah, and Roy has practiced for his entire life to just close himself off from his emotions.
Yeah.
It's easier for him to say in his mind that my dad is dead, rather than have to face the possibility that his father could still be alive and out there.
Yep. And you see that throughout the film. People are congratulating, but then you find more that his dad is pretty much going insane. He like kills a lot of the crew with him on Neptune, on the Lima project. The woman that he meets on Mars says, he killed my parents. Screw this man.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of people, the closer he gets to the Lima project, the less congratulatory people are towards him. Like,
it's interesting to view the other characters through the lens of Roy.
Mm-hmm. And we get to see that in this film.
Because everyone he encounters, or everybody who has a kind word to say about his father, something befalls them in some horrible way.
Yes.
The first one being Colonel Pruitt, who it's safe to assume that he dies on the moon.
Yes.
And also there's the escorts that he has on the moon. They're all killed just so Roy can continue on the mission to find his father. Mm-hmm. There's the crew of the Cepheus, who are all killed in various ways.
A commander?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then finally, when Roy gets to his dad dies.
Yeah.
He thinks he's accomplished his mission. He's going to get his dad home. But then his father unclips himself
Yeah, when they're trying to get back to his ship.
and drifts off into space.
Yeah, and he's like, let me go. Just let me go. And he does. And that scene was so beautiful.
There was this great shot as Roy is set to leave Mars, and Commander Lantos gives him that video that basically says what Clifford did and the mutiny he put down. And the face of Clifford is overlaid with that of Roy. So it almost forms like this skull. So Roy is this harbinger of death throughout the film. I mean, it's certainly not intentional on Roy's part to kill all these people, but because he's so closed off from his emotions, he doesn't feel any of these deaths.
No, he doesn't. He just takes it in stride. It's so fascinating as a character study to see that. And I know people that I heard that was one criticism about the film, that they're like, he doesn't emote enough. But I would say they set the parameters early, because in this film, there's a lot of voiceover narration. And the film almost reads like a book, because a lot of movies, you never get to hear what people are thinking. It's all expository, like you see them say it to other people. But this, it's a narration, a lot of in flashback, which I loved. And he tells you straightforward, he's cold. Like his wife does, him and his wife had a fractured relationship. His dad, he hardly knew, he's dead to him. He can't grip with his emotions. He just pushes it down. It's brilliant.
It's easier as an actor to just emote, but it's much harder to portray the sense of pushing down your emotions and hiding them and concealing them
In such a subtle way.
Exactly.
This film is so subtle. And there's a difference. He was subtle. You could feel the emotion within the lines. You could see in his little expressions, this is how he feels. And he does have expressions. Like when he cries a couple times throughout the film when he's going nuts on his journey to Neptune, the Lima. Like, he feels, man.
The further away Roy gets from Earth, the less in check of his emotions he becomes, because he's getting further away from Earth and closer to his father.
Yeah, he has to deal with that.
So he has to, his father is this balled up thing of emotion that he's stuffed down in his soul for years, and he's getting closer to him and realizing that I have to deal with this. It's all coming unhinged. And we definitely see that in his long journey from Mars to Neptune, because he is by himself for those 79 days.
Which is just insane. Could you do that? Just
Absolutely
be stuck?
not.
Oh my gosh.
Because he doesn't have anything to keep his mind occupied. He doesn't have any like thumb drives of movies or shows, any books or anything like that. There is nothing to keep him occupied. It is just him and the Cepheus and the knowledge that his actions caused the deaths of 3 other people on that craft. So he has to sit and stew with that for almost 3 months.
I don't know if I could deal with that. That's got to just be, I don't know. That's probably why they don't send astronauts up to space by yourself.
No.
You just go insane. Literally. It's fascinating how he almost mirrors his dad throughout this entire picture. They're both going on that journey, and in the end, they almost become insane together when he meets his dad.
Well, and Tommy Lee Jones is fantastic in this film, too.
So subtle as well. He's incredible. Like, Roy just wants to touch his dad when he meets him, and his dad pulls away. Because he just, oh my God, he's been by himself for so long.
Yeah. I think Clifford is somebody who can't see the forest through the trees.
Yeah.
And I hate using that cliche, but it's so true in this case. Because his mission on the Lima project was to find extraterrestrial life. And he didn't find it.
No. There's no sign in 150 years in the future of no signs of extraterrestrial life. But he found so much data about other things.
He found all these beautiful, potentially habitable planets that are devoid of life, but he can't recognize the beauty that those images and that knowledge has.
He's just so set on he has to find it. And I think it's because he's been so successful throughout his career that finally, for the first time, it's something that he can't overcome. You know, it's there. He's not going to find it. And so he has to deal with that. And Tommy Lee Jones' character can't.
He can't deal with it. In his mind, he didn't succeed.
But he did. Exactly.
He succeeded in his mission, like by confirming that, no, there is an extraterrestrial life. We are alone in our galaxy. But to him, he was so set I have to find it. I need to find it.
And in his ability, in his way of not being able to deal with it, in his failure, he ends up murdering his entire crew that's on the Lima because they want to just abandon and go home. And he says no, and he cuts life support. Like there's their dead bodies just floating around when Roy enters the ship. It's, oh my gosh.
I did find it interesting that Clifford was a man of God.
Really?
Yes.
All right.
I mean, and that's not to say, I mean, so often people equate scientists with being atheists or non-religious people, but they're not.
Yeah.
I mean, science offers a way of expanding our view of the world and the universe and how processes work. It's not just saying like, oh, well, it works this way because God designed it that way. It's like, well, yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can believe whatever you want to believe, but science offers a way of clarifying those unknown things about our world.
Yeah, where they initially came from is up to, that's been the topic of controversy for our whole life.
Yeah, no one's looking to disprove God. They're just looking for a way to prove how these processes actually work instead of just saying, oh, it's the gods or it's God, singular.
Yeah, instead of just writing it off. But that was pretty interesting that he did believe, which is something that we don't commonly see in a lot of films.
No,
we never do, which is, I don't know, it's kind of interesting.
It's a welcome change.
Yeah.
And yes, these are astronauts, these are important scientists, but it's important to recognize them as people. They're men and women who have their own set of beliefs and thoughts. And if they are, men or women of God, by no means does that exclude them from being scientists.
Absolutely. So what else? Did you like the visuals in this and the color palette?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I think that's a testament to Hoyt van Hoytema, the cinematographer of this film, and the choices he made in terms of differentiating between the worlds that we're on. Because on Earth, everything's lush and vibrant. On the moon, everything's just gray.
Cold, yeah.
Well, it's gray because the moon is borderless. There's no one who controls the moon. And then on Mars, everything is red, almost like this sign of impending danger. And then we get to Neptune, and it's blue. And we almost, it's just this eminent sadness that permeates all of those scenes where Roy has found Clifford.
They did such a brilliant job.
Well, it's and that sadness just it goes into the ship of the Lima project, because when Roy is set to take Clifford out of there, it's not a son finding his father. That scene is portrayed with such tender love and care that Roy still has for his dad. Yeah, he's still realizing that. It's almost like a son caring for a parent who's been afflicted with Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or some neurological disease, and that's when it got me like right in the feels.
Me too. Despite his dad saying, I don't care, you're nothing to me, I don't think about you guys. I don't think about anything when I've been out here except work.
Of course he was. I think he was just saying that to get Roy to go away.
The explosion, projecting him back to Earth, everything. The color palette was amazing. And the score, for me at least, that followed it all up, changed with every planet they were on or flew by. Beautiful film. I have to say, beautiful film. This is when visual effects are used to their potential, I think.
Yeah.
And they don't feel fake. They don't feel forced. And it's incorporated into the film in a realistic fashion where you're almost like, wow, how did they do this? This looks incredible. Like the moon, I'm like, did they film this in the desert and change, the camera? I don't know.
I think they definitely may have done that for the shots on the moon and for Mars. I mean, because I don't want to say that's an easy effect to do, but I mean,
it looked good.
It looked great.
It looked good, man. I'm like, this is on Earth or this is all green screen. You guys, who are you? Please get hired in more films and do more things like this, because this is just insatiable, particularly.
And that ending is great too when Roy has to unclip his father.
Yeah, because they're trying.
His father
to
wants to stay in space.
He does.
He doesn't want to go back. He doesn't want to go back to Earth. The space is his home now, and he wants to stay there.
Yep.
And I can respect that, but it's just so heartbreaking to see Roy acquiesce to his father's wishes.
Yeah, he came all this way, and you think that his dad's going to go with you, but I knew he wasn't going to, and he just jettisons himself out there, and Roy has to decide, am I going to die with him or let him go?
But he takes his father's data with him, because through Clifford's failure, quote unquote, Roy is going to take that to find success on Earth and learn to grow out of his father's shadow.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to go back home and try to reconcile with his wife is by realizing that, yes, we are alone in the universe. Humanity is all we have.
That's it. And that's all you have to work with, man. Love and just propelling the race and everything.
And in a way, in realizing that we are alone in the universe is liberating for Roy. He doesn't have to close himself off anymore. He can have those human connections and relationships with people that he shut out.
And he got that closure with his dad. Everything.
Yeah.
It just all tied it nicely in a bow. It was tied up in a bow, but it didn't feel like your stereotypical happy ending.
No.
You know, because it wasn't happy at all. Like, his dad died, and like he had to deal with that heavy loss. But in that loss, he shed tears and he realized, like you said, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not your fault. You can go back to humanity now.
So let's discuss how the film is doing now, opening weekend. So it currently holds an 82% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
Personally, I feel like this should be a bit of a higher rating.
I think so as well.
Well, because we saw it, a couple nights ago, opening weekend, and the theater we were in was sparsely populated.
I couldn't believe it. IMAX, though, was filled.
Exactly. The next door was the IMAX screening, and people were pouring out of that.
But do you know what theater was also filled?
Downton Abbey.
God, why? I don't understand.
I haven't seen it. My girlfriend's been trying to get me to watch the show for a while, so I'm not going to criticize the film too much, but I did see that Downton Abbey is actually going to get the top spot in opening box office this weekend. However, Ad Astra is going to gross about $19 million opening weekend against that $100 million budget. I think that once word of mouth gets around about this film and how good it is, then people are going to be flocking to see it.
I hope so, because this is really worth it.
Well, I think what's hurting the movie right now is a lot of people are comparing this to Interstellar, and that's a disservice to both films.
Yeah,
because
they're totally different.
They're totally different films. It's a totally different mission for each film. Each of the main characters has a totally different motivation for leaving Earth. It's a different depiction of the future in both films.
Yeah, there's nothing. The only thing that's really taken from that film is the shots. Kind of. Kind of. But even as we talked about the end, maybe the ending, how this one was pretty straightforward. It stayed relevant in like the human, whereas
Interstellar's thing was like, oh, love is a dimension.
Whoa, like it just went left field, man. Like all into science. This stayed home and real the entire way.
I think the studio is banking on this being a big time winner come award season.
Totally.
Or it's going to be nominated for several awards. So let's just get that out of the way right now.
All visual effects awards are going to go right to this film.
A ton of technical awards. I imagine production design is going to be at the top of that list. Brad Pitt's performance is going to be universally lauded because he's fantastic in this film. I wouldn't be surprised if he does win an acting Oscar. Maybe not for Ad Astra, but definitely for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I feel like he could easily win for both of these films, though.
I believe so, and I agree. It is a shame, though, that in 2019, both of his films that he's in are second fiddle to Downton Abbey and then a remake of The Lion King.
Right.
It's like, what universe do we live in where a Lion King remake is going to outgross and be number one compared to a film with Leo and Brad Pitt?
Around Oscar season, if the movies are out on home media and they win, there's always a boost in revenue for those films. And that's what I think the studio is going to be banking on.
I hope so.
Because this is a great film.
It is.
And with that in mind, before we get too deep down this rabbit hole, let's provide our rating for the film.
Okay.
Now, normally how we rate our films on the Force-Fed Sci-Fi podcast, we have a 4-tiered system of wouldn't watch, would own, and would host a viewing party. And when we do our bite-sized versions, we kind of forego the last rating a little bit. We just say would see it again in theaters. John, what rating do you give to Ad Astra?
4 stars, baby. I'd see it again. I'm gonna buy it when it comes out and host viewing parties. This is insatiable, man. We've talked about visual effects, acting, performance. I think it's one of my top 10 favorite sci-fi films of all time that I've ever seen. I mean, it left me speechless, man, and we're still talking about it.
Yeah.
So that's my rating. How about you, bud?
You know, I have to give it all of our top ratings. I'd see this again in theaters. I would even pay to see it in IMAX again. I would go see it in IMAX. I would own it when it comes out, and I would host viewing parties for all my friends to come over and enjoy it with me. I mean, for me, this is a well-crafted and just flat-out brilliant film. The color palette, as we've mentioned, is amazing. It's one of the most realistic of space travel depictions that we've ever seen. Brad Pitt commands the screen, and his performance is incredible, along with that of the rest of the cast. They're able to keep up with him, too. And in many ways, for me, this has supplanted Interstellar with its story of love and space travel. I mean, and it gives us a very optimistic view of the future, which is something I always kind of look for in future films like this. And maybe it gives us hope for how we'll be able to go beyond the reaches of Earth.
I like it. It's a hopeful film.
Yeah.
So, with that being said,
so let us know if you've seen the film. Let us know if you loved it or if you agree with our ratings. If you enjoyed today's episode, please go head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. It really helps to drive us up the charts, as well as help people like you find the show. We are across the spectrum of social media with Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at ForceFed Sci-Fi. You can check out and download episodes at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, the iHeartRadio app, or wherever you find podcasts. And go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Finally, you can check out our website, forcefedsci-fi.com, for show notes and links to all of our social media. So for all of us at the ForceFed Sci-Fi team, we will see you next time. ForceFed Sci-Fi is written and hosted by Sean Culp and Chris Rupp. Website design, associate producer, and editing by Jeremy Keski. Artwork designed by Mike Berger. Theme music composed and performed by Custom Anthem.